Welcome to the Bear Rumble Podcast, your home for everything BHP football. Each week, we dive into the greatest games, preview what's coming next, and share the stories that make Belton Honeypath Bears football special. From legendary coaches to unforgettable moments, this is where Bear Nation comes together. This is the Bear Rumble Podcast.
Welcome back, Bear fans, to another episode of the Bear Rumble Podcast. I'm your host, Kayne Evans, and we've got a great show lined up for you today. We're talking about the line of scrimmage, as our guest this week is Coach Cody O'Brien, the offensive line coach for the BHP Bears. After our interview with Coach O'Brien, we'll review the game against Lawrence, the positives, and even some of the concerning negatives coming out of that game. Then we'll wrap up the episode with this week's preview of the matchup against the Westside Rams that I think all Bear fans have had circled for over a year. So with that, let's jump in with Coach O'Brien. All right, Bear fans, we're joined this week by Cody O'Brien, offensive line coach here at BHP, and kind of the maker of those big hog mollies up front, and we're excited to talk to him about that line of scrimmage game and everything that comes with that. So, Coach O'Brien, thanks for being with us, and glad you're here with us this week.
Yes, sir. Glad to be on. Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely. So with that, we always like to kind of get a background. Some of our Bear fans maybe know the names, but want to kind of get a idea of where some of our coaches kind of backgrounds on their where they come from, where they coach, and that sort of thing. And that might be where we start. That's where we're going to start this week. So, Coach, let's start with that journey. You graduated from Westside, then you went and graduated at Lander University down in Greenwood, taught in that Aiken County school district near near Wagner Sally and Saluda, came in from Saluda, and then back in Bear territory now. Give us a little overview of that background that you had, both coming up on that west side of Anderson and then down in the peach fields down in that Aiken area, and then back up here with BHP.
Yeah, so Westside grad, played football there under Coach Ted Luckadoo, played baseball under Coach Barry New, and those were really fun times for me. Was able to go to North Greenville for a year, where I played offensive line. Before having a career-ending knee injury. But, you know, I knew I wanted to still be part of the game. I knew I wasn't big enough in that area, in that position to play offensive line at that level, but I still wanted to be part of the game. So while at Lander, I was able to help my dad's middle school football teams. He coached at Southwood Middle and Robert Anderson Middle when they built that new school. And so my final semester at Lander, I did my student teaching at Belton Middle School under Lori Florence and Rusty Cloninger, those PE teachers. So I guess that was my initial into Bear territory. This turned into a long-term sub position for Rusty while he had surgery, and also had the opportunity to coach the boys basketball team at Belton Middle for that year. Couldn't find a job teaching right out the gate. PE jobs are hard to find. So I was an autistic aide in an autistic classroom, and coached with my dad at Robert Anderson. And then I found a job probably in November of that year at South Aiken High School, and I taught PE there, and then I coached the C-team baseball team. And after that, I was at A.O. Corbett for a couple years, and then my last stint was at Silver Bluff. The summer of that year at Silver Bluff, we were at a team camp and saw BHP there, saw Coach Blackston. He got to talking with me, talked about Rusty retiring. Was I interested in coming back? So I did. In 2018, I coached the middle school team, the 2018 season, 2019 season at Belton, and then JV head coach during that COVID year. And now this is my 5th season coaching offensive line at BHP.
Absolutely. There's a lot of great kind of points in there. I think your story has maybe some of the same connections that we see with some of the other coaches at BHP, that family ties. One, you got to coach with, like you said, your dad. I know Coach Blackson's had some sons come through and play under him. Other coaches, Coach Strickland's had his son come play under him. I know that's football and family really go together, and I think that's a theme throughout BHP as well. And then being able to come back to BHP, that I know we're definitely glad to have you, but it's a great, I know we talked with Shamad and both and Dalton, how some of those summer meetings can really blossom into some opportunities for you. We're so glad that's helped. You did say you graduated Westside. BHP plays Westside. There's no misaligned allegiances this week. I know. Got to ask Coach Blackson the
No,
same thing this week.
yeah, definitely not. I'm all about the Bears. Let's go Bears.
There we go. There we go. We knew that would be the answer. So so with that, give us a little more insight. You mentioned your dad. That might be the answer. Who are some of those coaches or even some players that you may have played with that really shaped how you view and coach football now here at BHP?
Yeah, definitely my dad first and foremost. So I got to play for him as a middle school kid, 7th and 8th grade year. And then I got to coach with him for 4 years. And then he got to coach with me when I came to Belton Middle School for 2 years. So him for sure, learned a lot from him and how to operate a program. My offensive line coaches in high school at Westside, Coach Nelson and Coach New, still, in contact with them to this day. And then now that I've been at BHP, man, I've learned so much from Coach Blackston, not just about the offensive line, but really about life. And Coach Jenkins, how knowledgeable he is. He has a offensive line background as well. And love soaking it up every day, listening to those guys.
Yeah, with that, let's switch over to that offensive line. Let's talk about, so you talk about Coach Blackston and Coach Jenkins both have an offensive line background, especially Coach Blackston before his time as the head coach. He was the offensive line coach at BHP. What is it like coaching under Coach Blackston with such a focus on that offensive line? And then do you ever see, with him being there, is there extra support or is there a little extra pressure, you as the offensive line coach, knowing that there's so much experience right there with you?
Yeah, Coach Blackston's had a tremendous amount of success with producing offensive lines. He just knows the right things to say and do just at the right time to get the most out of the kid. With the offense we run, I think it's great that we have 2 offensive line coaches. This provides, I think this is definitely supportive, especially in practices. We're able to small up our group and focus on specific techniques and assignments for specific positions. And then, in the games, it gives more insight because, we're able to split that offensive line in half, and he's able to look at one side and I'm able to look at the other side, and it enables, our offense to help attack the weaknesses of our defense, or, the defense we're playing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I'm also knowing offensive linemen and offensive line coaches, there's a mentality there a little bit maybe different than other coaching positions. And I definitely see it from Coach Blackston. It's the physicality is A1 on all the lists that has to come for a BHP team, and being there as an offensive line coach, I'm sure he instills that with you and the team, that as your group as a whole.
No doubt. Like that's our number one goal, is be the most physical front every time we step out on that 120.
Yeah. All right. With that, let's look at your actual group. Give me an overview of your current group of guys. Offensive line is one of those maybe not strange, but the more group plays together, the better they get. You've got 3 guys that's played a lot of football in the middle, but you're also adding a couple more on the outside. Tell me a little bit about that group you're bringing in this season.
Yeah, like you said, the best offensive line groups are able to unite and play as one. I think this starts with their, our center, Brady Spearman, his 2nd-year starter. He's a real anchor that IDs are the fronts, makes the calls to correctly block our schemes. Beside him are, like you said, 2 experienced guys. At right guard, Keelan Dixon, 4-year starter, as well as left guard, 4-year starter, Keegan Mosher. They played a lot of games. And so I think that experience brings it speaks a lot for itself, that experience. And, the first year starter at right tackle, a junior, Carter Burgess, he's a huge young man.
He is.
If you've watched any film, he's been getting after it these first 3 games. Made great improvements from last year until now. I think Carter and these other ones I'll talk about, the transition really started in the weight room, getting bigger, faster, stronger, and really, taking ownership, in that aspect of their game. The left tackle is also a junior, McCray Pruitt. I think he's a real smart lineman that continues to improve. He just seems to be in the right place at the right time. And you turn on the film well with him, he's been physical and getting after it this first 3 games. I hope he continues. And then we have a couple other guys. Jonah Barris, he's versatile. He can play both guard and tackle. He's a junior as well. Another huge young man. I'm excited what his future holds. And then Jackson Muzak, he's probably going to be a tackle. For us, and he's 6'6", close to 300 pounds. He's huge. He's been getting after it in the weight room, and I've seen some improvements. And then senior center, right guard, left guard, wherever we need him, Wyatt Lothridge. He's been with us for 2 years, and we hope for him to get some playing time.
Yep. And that's what. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, that's one thing one positive these last 3 weeks. There's been times where you are able to get some playing time for some of those guys that you mentioned, and it's getting some tape on them, letting them see themselves on the tape. I know that's a big thing, not only in practice but also getting views that way as well.
For sure.
Yeah, I come from a line of scrimmage kind of background too. Let's geek out a little bit, if you will go with me a little bit, on Keegan Mosier and Keelan Dixon. Keelan,
okay, yeah.
I go back. There's plenty of runs, but I just, in my mind, I can see one of those Quez Henderson 80-yard runs, but it's led by Keelan, is pretty much step for step with him out of the backfield and just runs over maybe a defensive end and a linebacker at the same time. Talk to me about their ability both to block in that phone booth kind of way where we're pounding people in the middle, but also these are very athletic fellas. I think if you had it Coach Blackson's way, he might pull the whole line every now and then, and these guys can definitely do that. Tell me a little bit about them guys.
Yeah, so I think Keegan brings, the intelligence, toughness, consistency to every snap. Like you said, Keelan, dominant force on that right side. And like you said, I think he's one of the most athletic pulling guards in the state. They're both known for turning those simple run plays into explosive games, whether it's power counter, buck sweep. They excel, pulling, leading the charge, and they consistently make those blocks in space. They get to the second level. They give us that dominant interior presence, their chemistry, their leadership. But they've helped identify who's this offensive line has been for the last 4 seasons. I can't thank them enough for what they've done for me. I've learned from them, and these juniors that are coming along, they've learned from. They don't really know how much respect these other guys have for them, but these other guys, man, they love them, they respect them, and they think the world of them.
Yeah. Well, talk to me a little bit about that. Going against, we mentioned this before we got on, that defense, especially that defensive line that BHP has. Talk to me about how it has made your group better going against Kamarian Glenn and Keelan's brother Kylan and Kanaza Bryant and Ty Rainey and Jakari and all those guys on the defense. How's it made you guys better on the offense?
Man, I think iron sharpens iron, that saying. With those defensive ends and Kanaze and Ty Rainey, how hard they squeeze. Our tackles have really got to step and try to get knee behind knee and block down, or those guys are going to hit us and knock us off track. It's hard combo blocking Kylan and Mario, man. They do a really good job. And then, one of them is the away block for the center, and they do a good job of reading that block and fighting over the top. But also, it helps us out. It makes us better. Like I said, iron sharpens iron. It's difficult at times. It's frustrating at times in practice, but we got to know on that side of the ball, they're just as good. And heck, we're making them better too if we go full speed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When you see the toughest test on a Tuesday, Fridays, it makes Fridays a little easier for you guys, I'm sure.
For sure.
But
Yeah, no doubt.
with this, going back to that offensive line, one being coached by you, and then the background Coach Blackson, Coach Jenkins have, BHP ask a lot from that offensive line. It's not we're not just learning our zone blocking. There's a lot of technique and nuances that you guys are requiring from these guys. What are some of those nuances that aren't going to show up on in the stands, but what are some of those things that you really harp on with your guys on a daily basis?
Yeah, so I think first off, our identity as a football team is built in the trenches,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
whether it's offense or defense. Offensively, obviously we rely heavily on the run game, running power counter and buck sweep. I think we lean on our offensive line to create the advantage, whereas
Mm-hmm.
other teams might
Yeah.
do it just to protect it. Okay. So I think some of those nuances, are being able to master multiple blocking schemes. We talked about Keelan and Keegan pulling. We also have plays where our tackle will pull. So those guys get reps at, pulling. Those combo blocks, knowing who to work with. We want to find where we're going to make combo blocks and get to the second level. And I think that all of these things demand a high IQ of football, not just raw strength.
Yeah, that makes sense, and it just you're exactly right how this is the identity. Talking to Dalton, how you're not going to play wide receiver if you don't block. I think of all of those tight ends that like Charlie Davis is coaching, and those guys, tight ends and those H backs. How physical it sometimes it feels like you have just an extra two linemen out there. How much they are really putting their nose into that into those defensive guys and making people move. How is it? Talk to me a little bit how that the your offensive line works so well with those tight end and H backs with that physicality, mentality, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so they're in the same position group as those offensive line. When we go meet our tight ends, our H backs comes with us. They're in our drills, that we
Mhm.
do during individual period. Now they do get to do their 7-on-7, catch their routes and stuff. But for the most part, they're with the offensive line, and so I think they've adapted to that, to that mentality. But
Mhm.
also, I think they're great football players and great young men. Junior H back Brody Riddle is a dominant force on the edge for us. I mean, he just is. And
Mhm.
you look at years past and you've seen all these H backs that have been
Mhm.
great. And I think Brody can be right up there with them.
Mhm.
Great guy to coach. You tell him one time he's gonna do it. So I think that's outstanding. Nick, me and Nick, creating a great relationship this year. He's always been athletic. He's a three-sport athlete, and he stretches the field for us at that tight end position. But we know what that tight end position at BHP, we got to be physical, and I think he's taken some ownership in that. And man, I'm excited to see him Friday night. How physical he will be. See if he'll be able to stand up to the task. I think he'll be just fine.
Great, yeah. It's a reflection on you as a coach and the culture that all of the coaches have really instilled, especially on that offensive side. I want to one more question on the offensive side. Talk to me a little bit about what it is as an offensive line coach when you have such a playmaker in Noah Thomas. When you have a signal caller, a 3-year starter, a guy who seems to have his knowledge of the system as well as anybody, can both run and pass. Talk to me a little bit about how that makes what that does for your offensive line.
Well, in our offensive meetings, when we talk about pass pro, we always refer to keeping Noah's jersey clean. So they're they feel like they're the protectors. They're the
Mhm.
bouncers of Noah. Um, and then when he's able to run, man, we're able to hopefully get in there and push the pile. And then, we always preach to our guys, our offensive line, to pick our ball carriers up. And they've
Mhm.
done a great job with Noah when he's ran the football this year of getting to them and picking them up and being that protector.
Mhm.
So that's what I think with Noah and his offensive line. They've got a great relationship together. He he's one to first tell us, great job, great protection, stuff like that. So I think the relationship they have with each other shows on Friday nights.
Yeah, that's great. I know you do a great job protecting Noah, but sometimes somebody's got to protect Noah from Noah. When he gets out on those runs, he's looking a little Derrick Henry. He's trying to run somebody over, and somebody's got to remind him that he might not be Derrick Henry every time. But it's fun to watch when he gets out there on the loose.
Sure is. Sucker's fast.
He is, yeah, and that's just shown up so much. I know he had it last year, but some of those runs that he's already made this year is just mesmerizing sometimes. All right, let's talk about. We always like to talk with our coaches a little bit about the BHP community, the outside culture. Tell us a little bit about what it means to coach here at BHP, especially compared to some of the places that you've been, and then just what makes this community special for you.
Well, coaching football at BHP, Coach Blackston has done a great job of making sure we're a family, and he always preaches family first. That to me is what makes it special. I have guys on the coaching staff that were in my wedding, so we're a close knit type guys. It's really rare to find these days, especially in coaching, to have so many guys just been around each other for so long. And so I think that, and BHP, I'll tell you, both communities, Belton and Honey Path, they love their football. And when I go out and I'm wearing my BHP football shirt, they're going to ask me, especially when we get in the playoffs, y'all going to win? Y'all going to win? So they care about their football, and they know who the coaches are. They know us. We may not know them all the time, but they know who they are. So they've done their research, and it's a fun atmosphere to be in.
Yeah, with that, give me one of those memories that you've taken from your last 5 or 6 years here at BHP. What's something that's really stood out to you? One of those Friday nights that stood out for you at BHP.
I mean, those home playoff wins in 2023, Pendleton and Clinton. I don't know if I've seen a crowd that big.
Yeah.
In coaching or playing. And then, that game, that upper state championship game at Daniel, it's 5:30 and the stands are full.
Yeah.
The stands are full on our side.
There was a line at the fence before they opened the gate on the visitor side. You're right.
Crazy. That's just a testament of how important football is to this community. Obviously beating Westside, especially in 2023 for me, just how good that team was. The region championships, they've been great. And then, the upper state championship game last year versus MVP at Hillcrest on a cold night. That was a fun one. We struggled offensively, but we found a way, and that was a fun, didn't go our way in the state championship, but it was a fun memory to experience, and my first time ever getting to do that. So those are some of those memories I have at BHP so far. Hopefully make some more.
There we go. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that Pendleton game from a couple years ago. That was where Quez and losing the other running back.
Shaheen.
Both went down with injuries, and then Justin Lathan comes in and rushes for almost 200 yards in 3 quarters. And all that is a testament both to the culture of the next man up, but also your offensive line taking it to another step, another level that Friday night.
That was crazy. Justin came in there and had 30 carries for close to 200 yards. I mean, we were stunned at first, and then offensive line was like, "Don't worry, guys, we got you." So it was great to see that.
Yep. That, like you said, like you said, and I think Coach Blackson said it a million times. Hopefully, the best is yet to come, and a lot of these memories are still being made this year. So that's what we're expecting. All right, that's Coach. Right. Let's do a quick lightning round. We always like to finish this way. Get some quick answers from you. Well, I got to ask one thing. Dad would kill me if I didn't throw in a quick nod here. Your wife is from Lincoln County. Dad's from Lincoln County, little high school, kind of equivalent of Abbeville on the Georgia side of the border. We talked about the BHP community. What's it like coaching in these high school type of matchups where the community is fully behind you. The lights come on and late in October with it kind of chill in the air. Tell me a little bit about coaching in those kind of environments, just like in Lincoln County and all those little big towns like that.
Yeah. Well, the one word is fun. It's fun. The work goes in, Saturday through Thursday, and that's payday. And you just get to see what the hard work these guys have put in throughout the week, and how they're going to be successful on Friday, man. Just seeing that, these small towns, knowing everybody around you. You talked about Lincoln County. I've been to a couple football games from there, and they love their football too. It's a little 1A high school. I mean, they're really, really good every single year. Everybody knows about the football team. You talk to Joe Blow on the street, and they know who scored the touchdowns. They know their record. They know who they're playing next or who they could have in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's football. It's hopefully the man upstairs, God, and then it's family, and then it's football. So I think Belton, Honey Path, Lincoln County are similar in that realm.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that I see as special for BHP is it's still such a big draw for the community, and I think it just makes it all more special for the kids out there when they're giving their all to have that support that maybe some other places might not have. All right, let's jump into that lightning round. I teased it. Now we can get into it. Your favorite offensive lineman, college, NFL, anywhere? You got one?
So if mine right now, currently Trenton Williams.
Okay.
Trent Williams. He's 37 years old and still playing offensive line. So like pure athleticism and violence from him. So
yeah, talk about a big man pulling. I know there's plenty of those kind of videos. All right, favorite post game meal or snack?
Well, I'm biased, but I love those Chick-fil-A sandwiches you and your dad give us.
There you go.
Very thankful, by the way. God, y'all support is what makes this thing special too, as well. Or just whatever pregame meal, it seems to hit the spot postgame. So
there you go.
Those are two things.
All right, this is a special one. Which one do you like more? The 5-yard offsides penalty on the hard count, or getting 5 more yards from the scrum push?
Definitely, and I think this answer based on my reactions on Friday nights. Definitely, getting 5 more yards on that scrum push, because that's what we preach to impose our will on teams. And it's good offsides penalty, get 5 free yards and don't have to run a play, but that establishes our identity as in that scrum.
Absolutely. Love seeing it too. It get not just you, it gets the fans, it gets the whole sidelines going. So
heck yeah.
Most underrated part of playing offensive line for these guys?
All right. So this has been said before by a lot of offensive linemen, but offensive line is the only position in all of sports that you play with your back to the football, to the ball the entire game. Like, if you think about that, that takes a lot of trust in one another.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a lot of communication to be able, the defensive line knows where the ball is. The offensive line has no idea. We know where the ball's trying to be ran.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think that's the most underrated part. Play with their back to the ball the entire game.
All right, finally, what's that one word that describes your offensive line group this year?
Physical. So far, hopefully we can continue to be it.
Yep. Yeah, these guys, you're exactly right. I think it's definitely been shown so far, and I have no doubt that it's going to continue both this weekend for maybe 12 more weeks. So with that, I do want to thank you, Cody, for being here with us. It's great thank you so much for taking time for me personally, but I know Bear fans across the community love hearing from you guys, getting that insight and just seeing your passion that you have for coaching the Bears, coaching the players, and that sort of thing. So I just want to thank you for that, and we'll be rooting for you this Friday, maybe harder than most nights for us. So
I appreciate it, Kayne. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Before we get going, give me your best "How About Them Bears" before we sign off.
How about them Bears?
There you go, my man. Have a great rest of the week. We'll be excited to see you Friday, and I hope we'll be coming out and that navy and red's coming out on top of that maroon and gray Friday night for you.
That's right. Thank you so much, Kayne.
All right, man. Let's now look back on the game against Lawrence last Friday night. Friday night at Lawrence was exactly what most people predicted. A win for the undefeated Bears against a winless Raiders team. But in the way that that game unfolded, showed both how dangerous of a team BHP can be, but also showed some areas where that could become stumbling blocks for the Bears later in the season. Let's start on the defense. From the first snap of the game, this Bear defense was suffocating. Lawrence managed just 56 yards in the first half, and 26 of those came on one play. So outside of that one play, they had 36 total offensive yards on 21 snaps in that first half. Complete domination. With that, the front seven lived in the backfield of the Raiders all night. They accumulated 15 quarterback hurries, 9 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. The secondary matched that energy with 5 pass breakups, 3 interceptions, and a pick 6 from Ty DeBose in that game. Lawrence had 11 drives on the night, and 8 of them ended either in a punt or turnover. And that is championship level defense. Now, offensively, the numbers look great. 43 points, 486 total yards. But especially in the first half, wasn't as smooth as maybe all Bear fans would have wanted or expected. At halftime, the score was 21-3, and the theme of the night was penalties, which stalled both the offense and extended play drives for the defense as well. But in the second half, a complete different story happened. BHP really leaned on that offensive line, as we talked with Coach O'Brien. After halftime, BHP exploded for nearly a 9-yard per carry offensive output, up from the 5.5 yards per carry in the first half, nearly doubling their output there. Noah Thomas was steady once again, more than steady. He was outstanding. 200 yards passing, 69 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Then rushing, Cam Robinson led the way on the ground with 91 yards and 2 scores. While B.J. Anderson, Malachi Hester, and Tyzir Ware all chipped in, just forming that complete backfield for the Bears. Out wide, Tajay Watson-Martin was the leader. 4 catches, 117 yards. He took a screen pass, 72 yards on just an electric highlight reel type of play, making some defenders miss and then just turning on the burners, and nobody was catching him there. But I did mention there were some concerning areas for the Bears that showed up Friday night. The main concern, 19 penalties for 173 yards BHP was charged for. 5 of Lawrence's first downs came directly off of those penalties. That was the 11th game since 2014 that BHP had over 150 yards of penalties, and just an Achilles heel that slowed the offense and extended drives on defense. Both of things that cannot happen this Friday night against Westside, but throughout the season as the Bears go deeper and deeper into the season. Against Lawrence, the Bears could overcome that. But as I said, against Westside, that will be a different story if the Bears are bitten again by the penalty bug. But the story of the Lawrence game, defense, once again, is championship caliber. Lawrence did score a touchdown late in the game. The game was quite at hand, but this defense showed that championship caliber. Offense can be explosive and methodical, which is a great balance for those guys. But we've got to see that discipline take a stronger hold for these Bears players as we get further in this season. But with that, the Bears ended with a 43-10 win against the Raiders, stay undefeated on the season, and put in a showdown against the Westside Rams this Friday night at BHP. And with that, let's go ahead and preview that game. Now let's switch gears and talk about this week's matchup against the Westside Rams. And Bear fans, this is the one we've waited on. This is the one that's been circled on most of our calendars since last year's game. Last year Westside handed it to BHP, winning 55-14 at Westside. Westside would end up continuing on and made it all the way to the state championship game once again for the second season in a row. And that Westside team was a successful 2-point conversion away from winning a second back-to-back state championship. This team is different, a lot of different players in a lot of key positions, but this Westside team is still very, very talented and will be the biggest test that the Bears will face all season. But with that, the Bears enter the game 3-0 on the season. Westside will come into the game 0-2 on the season, but don't let that record fool you. The Rams' 2 losses have came against elite competition. Festivia Hills out of Alabama was their first game of the season. Westside went to Alabama to play Festivia Hills. Festivia Hills is one of those programs there in Alabama at the top tier in those classifications, playing likes of Thompson and Hoover and Auburn, some really big programs. Thompson is the number 22 team in the nation, and that team is in the Stevia Hills region. So was a huge matchup for Westside to go play out of state. They did get beat against Stevia Hills on that road trip. And then last week they hosted T.L. Hanna, their cross-town rival. I know Hanna had a lot of high hopes of getting back in the win column against Westside, having come up short the last couple years against them, and Hanna did so last Friday night against Westside. But as I said, this Westside team was a 2-point conversion away from being back-to-back state titles, where they came up just short against the South Florence Bruins. But like I said, some of those key position players have graduated and no longer with the Westside Rams. One of those new names is, and maybe not a new name, at least a last name for Westside, is quarterback Bear Woods. Last season, his brother Cutter Woods had led the Westside Rams for the last 3 years, accumulating over 11,000 passing yards, 120 touchdowns. His graduation and his move to the University of South Carolina left that position open, and his freshman brother now takes the reins at the quarterback position for the Rams. Even though being a freshman, he doesn't look like a freshman. He's 6'3", 170 pounds, and he has immense talent, both with his arm passing, great passing talent, but also just like his brother, can really hurt you on those runs out of the pocket. He actually led the team in rushing last week against Hanna. Along with Bear Woods, his receiving core, you'll look at Joseph Brady West, Ja'Carrion Jones, and J.C. Clinkscales, plus running backs Damari Robinson and Keelan Powell. One of the things that Westside does better than almost all teams in the state, they stretch you vertically. They like those long vertical routes, but also passing to those running backs, getting those running backs one-on-one out of the backfield. They do that better than any team in the state, and you've seen that even this year with Powell and Robinson. This offense will give this Bear defense the biggest test, covering the entire field, covering these athletic wideouts. Bear can make any of those throws on the field, and it will really, really test these defensive players, both on the line, getting pressure like they have so far this year, and in the defensive backfield, covering those wideouts. And tackling is going to be a huge, huge key for the Bears this week. So what does the Bears have to do? There's 3 things in my mind. 1, they have to establish physical dominance early. We talked to Coach O'Brien. We know that's what is preached day in, day out at BHP, but that's one thing that BHP did not do last year, and they have to get back and establish that dominance early, run the ball, being able to run the ball early, being able to stop the run. Westside wants to run the ball, especially alleviate some of that pressure on a young quarterback. They have to be able to stop the run, and then they also have to be able to really pound the rock on the offensive side. Two, they have to tackle in space. I talked about how explosive these wideouts are, but also these backs out of the backfield, getting them the ball on those swing passes, getting them one-on-one with a safety or a nickel corner. Those type of players have to make open field tackles and bring these Westside backs down one-on-one. Tackling is a key for the Bears this week. And then lastly, the Bears have to be more disciplined. Like we said against Lawrence, Bears were penalized 19 times for over 170 yards. If the Bears do that this week, it may not. We might not get the outcome that we expect. We would want against a team so talented as Westside. The Bears have to be disciplined, both pre-snap, during the play, and post-play. There will be a lot of emotion being played on both sides of the field. The vicinity of these two teams, a lot of players' families work with other player families in Westside. I know there's friends on each side of the field. There will be a lot of emotion, and those post-snap penalties have to be at a minimum for the Bears this Friday night. But with that, this game carries a lot of emotion. Both one, revenge maybe on the mind for the Bears, but also remember Coach O'Brien, Westside alum, Coach Blackston, Westside alum. I know they have the allegiance is never in question here, but it's always, I'm sure for both of them, it will always be good to get a win over their alma mater. And then Bear Nation, Bear fans, those stadium seats have to be packed this week. The Bears will feed off of that energy coming out of the stands. We talk about the culture. We talk about the environment that Bear fans can create. And this is one of those games that we all have to show up and support the Bears. So with that, we want to see all you Bear fans at BHP this Friday night, cheering on those Bears, getting loud, really getting behind this team, and hopefully seeing an outcome that we all hope to see against the Westside Rams. So with that concludes our episode 7 of the Bear Rumble podcast. I want to thank Coach O'Brien once again for being here and being on the podcast, giving us some great insight to that offensive line group that has really fueled that offensive team the last few years. We thank you for being here with us. We ask that you subscribe, tell others about the podcast. Also, follow us on thembears.com, where you can see all historical stats, season stats, and also our weekly Bear Tracks post. And then lastly, if you can't make it Friday night, follow us on Twitter and X, where we live tweet the game. And then on Facebook and Twitter, we also post the final game stats and outcome. But with that, I thank you again for being here with us on the Bear Rumble podcast. And like always, how about them Bears?